Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the RT Machine Podcast. This is episode 4 of season 1. Today we have Kyle Price, Ryan Combs, and Dean Brown, all from our shop here. And we're going to spotlight Kyle today. Kyle, you want to give us a little lowdown about yourself and what your roles are with the service division?
Sure. I guess, talk about like where I came from, sort of what my background here. I guess one of the first things that I did was around 8 years old is when I kind of started doing woodworking. My dad, he just sort of brought home one day this strange piece of equipment into the garage, and I didn't know what it was, and learned it was a lathe. And so pretty much every night for like the next 10 years I spent in the basement working on the lathe. So I learned a lot about wood and woodworking doing that. A lot about finishing is what that is doing a lot of. And then for my 12th grade year in high school, I went to a vocational school and took an electrical systems class and did really well there. I had a really good teacher, Van Reichelderfer, and he went above and beyond in teaching me more than what was required in the class and got into doing a lot of PLC programming, stuff like that. After that, I actually was hired by my uncle, who owns Arns Machinery, and went on the road with him for, I guess, the next 6 years, just traveling the country and fixing machines, learning. And
you got into a lot of high caliber.
Yeah. Ended up doing a lot of different things, doing subcontracting work for Stiles and a lot of other manufacturers of equipment. And it was quite the adventure and learned a lot with him.
What all machines were you focusing on, or was it a little bit of everything, or was there like a main focus during that time?
Well, it was a lot of everything, but the biggest focuses were CNC machines and like edge banders, double-side machines. Those were my real go-tos there. It's what I got a lot of knowledge in during those years. Yeah.
Which I don't know if everybody that's listening, some of those dual-sided edge banders are pretty high production machines, footage-wise. A lot going on in.
Yeah. If you were to take all the machines kind of that are in a wood shop, a double-sided edge bander is probably the most complicated machine there is as far as mechanics go, because there are so many adjustments inside of them, which, I mean, you should know that, Ryan. You've played with your edge banders quite a bit.
Yeah. Not only if you just have one you're messing with, let's add two to it at the same time.
Exactly.
One's running backwards.
Yes. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's fun. I'd say I was going to say that the most complicated edge bander I did was this. It actually did angled parts, so the track would go, so it wasn't parallel anymore. Yep. It would actually put an angle on both sides of it. So depending on how wide you are, would change the angle of the dogs. Like, it was insane. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, that throws a whole different complexity.
Oh my word, you have no idea how complex that gets. I mean, you're talking about like timing of the dogs and the way that the chain jumps inside of the cogs of the for the chain movement. It's insane. Yeah, the math that goes into it. But yeah, it's fun stuff.
That's pretty cool. So all those Stiles customers out there, we are fully trained on.
Yeah, I did. A couple of Stiles classes. I never was a Stiles technician, but yeah, definitely did subcontracting for them. I think they've done some other people who are subcontractors for them since then, but at the time, that company I worked for, Arns Machinery, we were the only ones that had done subcontracting work for them. So yeah, a bit of a special thing.
Yeah, I get into quite a few shops that are, the bulk of their stuff is from Stiles, and they are really hurting, and we've been going in now and doing a lot of service work and PM work for those customers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Stiles seems to be having some issues with that. I hope they get better there. But
getting good service techs anywhere has been a little.
Yeah, I think they're feeling it just like all of us are, actually hiring good qualified people and then being able to service all the equipment, because they've got a ridiculous amount of equipment out there. I mean, imagine how much of their stuff breaks all the time, with that much volume out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, trying to help them out when we can.
What are some of the programming projects that you've been working on?
Yeah, so we do some retrofitting for machines, and we also do some custom machinery building.
Yeah, you guys actually did. I had a automated wood burning furnace from a silo with augers and stuff, and heated our building.
Exactly. Yeah,
I want to expand on that one a little bit.
Yeah, that was a fun project. Yeah, that was the first furnace I ever did. Well, actually, the only furnace I've done now. But yeah, it was, boy, when was that built?
Oh, that was 1987 GNS Mills.
Wow.
Yeah, so that had all original controls in there when I started with it, and ripped everything out of it, and built a PLC to go in there and connected it to the internet so it could send emails out. And whenever the furnace would have something wrong, if it wasn't within parameters of the correct heat or anything else, something like a breaker would trip or anything that might happen to it, it would send out an email to you, Brian, and let you know that it was broken.
Yeah, and something with like that in the past, what we had with that machine, we didn't have any of that type of controls on it. So, if you had breaker go on one item and then it's just trying to keep feeding the furnace, it's calling for fuel and there's no shutdowns on it. You can fill the whole furnace with fuel and nothing's burning. That's not a very fun.
Yeah, that used to pack that full, didn't it?
Oh my God.
It was X-axis or something?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, and now you got something that's half burning, but it's trying to smolder itself out. And it was never fun.
Now, were you burning your own wood waste or?
Yeah, we were grinding all of our waste, and that fed into a silo system.
Yep.
And then, we'd set the temperatures of the furnace, and then it just auger fed and held that at temperature.
Okay.
So the old style controls, you had trigger systems and contactors and stuff that, you were very mechanical. And then with the new system, we had control of everything, and it eliminated the cabinet. It went from a 3x2 at least cabinet with just a pile of contactors and stuff in it and timers and stuff like that. And basically pretty much got it down to a touch screen.
Yeah.
You could monitor everything from the touch screen. You could see that right from your phone. And
oh, yeah, I did hook that up to the phone, didn't I?
Yeah.
So you could live monitor everything. You could actually control it from your phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remotely. Yeah.
Like if we couldn't get in or something and something was going. But to be honest, we didn't really have many issues. Once we got everything streamlined to that, a couple little hiccups that we did have, you could actually, if you weren't going to get in, you could actually just turn the furnace off from your phone, which was really, really nice. Yeah. Between my maintenance man and everything else, it was a great upgrade to the system. It never burnt. It burnt so much more efficient with a smaller fire and hotter, and we didn't go through nearly as much fuel as what we did.
This is actually like one of those things that one of those side things I've done with my father is like probably ever since I was probably like 12 years old, we've always been trying to make like the best wood burning fireplace that we can make, and so I kind of had a little advantage when I was building that controller because I kind of already knew some basics of what I needed to do to get everything to go right there.
Yeah, because there was vibrators on it that triggered on as the augers went on, and they were staged, and then they ran after to keep all the fuel settled down and tight into the bin at the auger. So it was a pretty crazy system. And then those controls were up to the grinding unit as well. So we had control from at the grinder. We knew if something was going awry.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic project for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that one turned out so well.
That was a cool one to see from the start to the finish of how simple it was.
Yeah.
To be able to control afterwards.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Not all these switches and little blinky lights and everything firing at you.
Do you remember I filled up like a whole wheelbarrow full of old like contactors?
Oh my
God.
God.
Nonsense I pulled out of that thing, timers.
A whole wheelbarrow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. It's
It was full of this junk. It was great. A picture of it.
What was the other? We were just talking about that hot press line, actually Northway Industries.
Oh yeah, yeah. That one wasn't. That's not a hot press. That's just a regular glue that they use, like an Elmer's or something. Actually, I'm not sure exactly what it is that they use to glue it.
Regular
it's not
PVA.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They're just a cold press line, but
Yeah.
the controls that you built.
Yeah. So they've got like a storage bin system before the whole line there, and then they've got a brush cleaner, and then after that is a glue roller for top and bottom gluing, and then it goes into a manual laminating station where they put the laminate on manually, and then it goes through a press roll. Well, the thing that they're having over there, was they run a lot of one piece or even small orders. So it'd be like 5 of these boards and, 2 of those. Whatever.
Variable thicknesses.
Yeah, variable thicknesses. And that's what they were struggling with, was because the brush cleaner and the glue roller and the press roll, those 3 things need to be adjusted between every different style of thickness that they were doing. So what I did was I built a controller that would measure the thickness of the board and then adjust the brush, glue, and press roll to the correct thickness based on that. So more or less every board coming in, measure it, and then go through. So it's like a servo motor on each one of those that it auto-adjusted everything. So it's really neat, actually. The system turned out better than I thought it was going to. I was surprised in the end because I ended up getting everything so accurate that I would see exactly the actual thickness of every single board going through, and the whole line adjust for the tiny differences between every single board, not just like between like, 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch or something, but
Right.
Every single board, it customizes the line to get the perfect squeeze on everything. It was pretty awesome.
Well, I know from running our conveyor lines, that's a huge, huge problem of just having to go back through and adjust. And when you do get some of these like plywoods, when you're running that and you get some varying thicknesses, within a pallet, and that's pretty large to have all that doing that automatically for you. It takes a lot of the operator, and then you take a lot out of the glue spreader getting your good coverages that you need, and you're not getting a skipped pattern.
Yeah, I mean,
on that.
the quality that was coming out of that was so good. It just everything was perfect, really, coming out, because it was always the right thickness. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was surprised. I didn't realize how much difference there is in the boards between like the top of the stack and the middle of the stack.
Yep.
There's a really big difference.
Yeah, and some of these depend on what they're running, the particle board lines and stuff, and that industry has been always behind the gun, so they're running these lines what we would call hotter, so to get more board footage and everything out. So until that stack is broke apart and everything acclimates individually, that's where within that stack of being pressed together, you can have those variations.
Yeah.
Which everything stabilizes out at one point once it's acclimated to temperature and everything. But
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when it's stacked, it's like the top board, like if it's really humid out, was swollen. Like I think the top boards on the ones that I was doing, it was like, some of them were swollen out like by 1.5 millimeters. Like it was crazy how thick the top one got.
I'd have never guessed it would have been that much.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah.
But no, that had to save them tremendous amount of time just through, and just having the accuracy. And I know they do plug testing as well every day, and test their strength and stuff of their materials. And they're really dialed in on what they do for panel work. So yeah, they definitely got their game on over there pretty well. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was happy it worked out so well.
What was the we just did that shelling install this week.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that.
Kyle, what's the best panel saw out there?
Well,
We were just having this conversation earlier.
not biased or anything here. But yeah, I mean, I do love those shellings. I mean, you know, like a Homag is a good saw too. I'd say Homag and shelling are at the top. There's no doubt. But in my personal opinion, I really like that shelling. And it's not just the saw. The saw is, I don't know. I personally would say mechanically, I think the saw is better than a Homag. Just personal. But then I love the support behind them. You know, like it's kind of expensive. Like, so it's $1,000 for a year for a very specific saw. That's their service program. But if you pay that, you're covered. And they will jump on the computer and sit there with you and help you basically run the saw. If you're having an issue, they will figure it out. Like I've been blown away with how good they are with that.
Yeah, and I mean, just the machine in general, it shows you, because, we had an FH6 in our facility. And,
Right.
It pinpoints, it tells you exactly where a fault error is and shows you a picture of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then when, we've had to a couple times just, you overlook something and get the service tech on, and within minutes he logs into your machine and clears an error, and
Right.
and you're back up and running.
Yeah.
It's one of them companies. That's what they do.
Right.
They live and breathe saws.
Yes.
You're not getting another tech who is, oh yeah, I mainly work on edge banders, or yeah, I work on saws sometimes, maybe once or twice a month. I'm on a saw. No, every single person there is focused on saws.
Right.
It's a different class of service.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of hate that whole thing of like, like, oh, you really like them because like you guys sell them, which, we do. We're one of the dealers for them. But I don't know. I personally don't get anything out of that.
Right.
I'm just saying, as a technician, I love those saws. They're great.
Well, I lost an order this past week too,
Did you?
but I was up against an inexpensive saw, and they couldn't see the extra value in the machine, and it's hard to get that across to people sometimes of that extra money, but it's worth every bit. And just the longevity and of especially when you're talking about horizontal panel saws, when you're stacking product, that's the main reason you get into a horizontal panel saw, is being able to run a book of material.
Right.
And, when those blades start whipping through, 5 or 6 pieces of material at a time, that's usually where the men and boys are separated in the panel saw industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of not getting hooks in the panel and everything like that. And doing that repeatedly. These things are built to run 24/7.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yours, like, weren't you doing like a whole bunch of these like small rips on yours?
Oh, yeah. We had a couple of things where we were just doing.
Like you take
Little-
like a 4x8 and like turn it into a whole bunch of like 1-inch or like something
Yeah.
strips.
Things that are kind of tough. And some of those we'd get into where we had to knock them down to a 1/2 inch, which is,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's pretty tough one to.
That's a lot of cuts per board. Yeah. They just fly through them.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to a guy this week. They had 4 cheaper panel saws, and they went and ran one of the shellings where they put their first one in a month or 2 ago. And they have their second one coming in again, and we were talking about it. And it's like shelling is focused, like I said earlier, focused on saws, but they also do into the aerospace, the plastics, where tolerances are just, we don't even talk in the same tolerances as them guys.
Well, you
So
see it.
all of that technology that they're doing for the aerospace industry is also getting handed down to the wood industry.
Yeah, you
on
can
their saws.
see that tolerance and like the level that those things are built to. Like it's just better.
Yeah. Well, my customer you were just at this week at Miller Blaker, they had 2 older shellings before that were 26 years old, I believe, and they just replaced one with the new FH4, and then we just put another FH4 in
Yeah.
with a 14-foot saw. They were running 10-foot saws, but I think they're really the operators, I was, going over with them how to run the saw a little bit differently, which moving your 4x8s and things that they're running typically down to the far end, and then you can just leave your material on the saw as you're running into your crosscuts. And I don't think you can imagine that too much until you're actually the operator running it and you don't have to lift pieces on and off the saw.
Oh, yeah.
Take full advantage of that extra capacity.
Oh my God, yeah, it's huge. And then allowing to go into obviously 12-foot material and things like that, and that's where.
Yeah, actually, I think they just after I finished putting that in, they said they had an order of something really long that they were actually going to need the saw for. Because at first the operator was telling me, we're never going to need this, this wide thing, and I was like, okay, whatever, But and then at the end he's like, we might actually need this for this job going up. It's like, well, it's always good to have the extra leg. So, yeah.
Yeah, that turned out to be a nice install.
Yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you get all over the country as well.
Yeah. Sort of. I kind of do a little bit of everything.
Last summer you flew out to California, installed an Onsrud. Guy came here to look at it. Was that the summer before? I think that was 2 years ago.
I don't even know. Everything runs together.
I don't know why I remember
crazy.
that one so much, but I remember him coming in. I was out here showing him, and then I don't know if you went to his facility or something, but he demanded you by name to fly you out to California to install it for him.
Yeah, that happens. I don't know. I think people get a little bit caught up in names. I guess just people get familiar with you or something, and
Oh, absolutely. It's building a relationship.
It's hard to find somebody you trust in this. Once you find someone you trust, it's why would you go elsewhere?
Yeah,
exactly. You're going to get a good service. You're going to get.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that was fun. I got to do a little bit of mountain biking out there. That was fun.
Yeah, Kyle, you're a pretty big mountain biker too.
Oh, I dabble.
I know some of the videos that you were taking out there of on the bike. I was like on the edge of those hills. I was like, yeah, I don't like heights, and I know Ryan doesn't like heights. So.
Yeah, I'm always trying to get people to go with me, but not many do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of the land and water low level.
Yeah. Well, you like the water. I'm not as huge of a fan of water. Yeah. I tried doing your sports. I tried barefooting.
Yeah, you were a natural coming into it.
Yeah.
Derek got you out there, and
it was great until I dislocated my arm. Ever since then, I didn't have the same.
Don't tell people that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, you will never dislocate your arm if you go barefoot water skiing.
Doesn't hurt at all when you fall.
No, I've taken.
Doesn't feel like concrete at all when you hit that water.
No,
you won't go sliding across on your face.
Yeah, in that sport, you learn to take a punch for sure.
Oh my word, yeah. And I was okay with that. I was okay with smashing into the water at 42 mile, or was it 43? I think I was pulling at 43 mile an hour, and I was okay with hitting the water at that speed. It hurt, but I was okay. But yeah,
when you get into like a whip or something, no, you can really hurt yourself. Yeah, trust me.
You start getting into the wake surfing, where they're going like 10 mile an hour, and when you fall, you just sink.
Yeah.
That's more my sport now.
Yeah,
it
doesn't hurt when you go down.
Yeah, that's become really, really popular.
Everyone's sick of dislocating their shoulder.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think people are just getting soft. I'm still trying to carry the torch.
How about you come mountain biking with me, Brian?
Oh, I know. Well, it's funny you say that because years ago, my buddies were into it pretty heavy, and I always had like cruisers, BMX cruiser bikes, and I showed up at the mountain the one day and single speed, and I popped this bike out of the back of the truck, and my buddy's looking at it, he goes, "What the heck is that thing?" I'm like, "This is my bike." He's like, "There's no gears on it." And I had a box of gears there.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
do.
"What are you going to do? Pull over and change the gears on the trail?" I'm like, "No." I said, "What is the overall terrain? Is it like pretty hilly, flattish, or if it's only got a couple big hills, I can deal with it." But I'd put in the sprocket on it. I would change the sprocket out to whatever the terrain was kind of like. But most of the time, so they were like, "You're never going to even make it or finish it." Well, I said, "I'm not going to be the last one, and I probably won't be the first one." Well, I ended up coming in second that day and smoked all these guys on a single-speed cruiser. Half of that's just like the
really
never give up.
It's really surprising.
Yeah.
That's actually a big movement, is the single speed.
Yeah.
Because like there's a number of guys that I go with that run single speeds and they love it. And the thing is, it's not as relevant now because we've gotten really good gear shifting systems, but maybe like 5 years ago, it was even more relevant because you didn't have to shift gears. You knew what gear you're in. So when you come flying down the hill and you go up the next hill, you don't have to guess what gear am I in, and maybe you're down too low, and then you start trying to pedal really fast and you slip, and then you lose your momentum. You always know where you're at. And so when you hit the right speed that you know you can pedal, you just go for it as hard as you can. And that actually adds to your overall speed. It was really surprising.
Yeah, it takes a big variable out of it that people don't know where they started out on at the top of the hill or midway, and then I didn't have any I didn't have any choice.
Yeah, completely.
At that point, you're
completely different level bike, but you're coming down the hill and you start back up and the chain pops off. Yeah, now you're screwed.
Yeah.
But
that was my first bike. My first bike, the chain would always pop off.
Yeah, my one buddy, I used to always tail on him quite a bit, and he had the lock-in pedals and all that. And I'm coming from BMXing, so I don't have any of this nice gear, and riding that way. And he used to get so mad at me because one day we were going over this log obstacle, and we were going pretty good clip, and he flipped, his front wheel caught, and he was head over heels. Well, I ran right over top of his back of his bike, and he was so fucking pissed at me. He was, you shouldn't be going so close. I'm like, well, go faster. So, I haven't been out in the trails for quite a few years actually now, but
yeah, you should try it again. It's fun.
It is. We got here we have RT. We got the full gym that most people don't realize we have up here. It's full on weight facility, and
even I've used it a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Ryan and I and Eric, we were hitting it for a couple good weeks, and then we had a hiccup, and then they're out of town this week, and I think we'll
probably skip this week again.
Yeah, it's pretty well equipped. So a lot of guys I think are using it now here at the facility. We brought all my equipment up and stuff for my old.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much stuff you had until I just went up there.
My God.
Earlier this week.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's on the second floor, probably 5,000 pounds at least.
Oh my God,
There's more than that.
So much.
We have a couple
dumbbell-wise.
offices right below it. Them guys get a little scared when we go up.
Pretty sure the floor is not rated for all that weight.
Let's do some dead drop guys.
Yeah. You don't just drop stuff. It was a little scary the other week. I dropped some hundreds.
Yeah.
You got to take it easy. Everybody move away from me a little bit, just so we're not all going through the hole at the same time. It is good. It does feel good to get up there. Although we're a little bit in the heat up in the rafters up there, so it's
in between the rafters.
Yeah, it needs to actually get closed in and put an air conditioner up there.
We were just going to open your door.
Yeah, no, you're not opening my door up there.
Turn the air conditioner on, open your door.
we can get Dean in with us today. I think Miranda said she was going to come up today too. So
There you go.
sweat it out. What was Ryan? Where were you at this week?
Weren't you at a golf tournament or something?
Oh, yeah. Yep. One of our customers down towards Ephrata, Signature, they did a golf tournament for a charity golf unit, Bridge of Hopes. Organization goes around helping families that have become homeless, some of it because of domestic violence. Listen to the one lady tell her story out there on the golf course, and she was a case of domestic violence, and for whatever reason it was, she got out of the house. 2 kids, the organization got her into a house, got her into schooling, college. She went and got her nursing degree and is a nurse, and both kids are doing well.
Oh, that's good.
So it was a really cool story to hear, and I did not give it justice there at all. But that is time after time after time of what they're doing. I think overall this week they raised over $60,000 for that organization. So it was a
Wow, that's pretty huge. Yeah.
No. So
It's something that I don't think we like to think about very much, but it does go on.
It happens more than you'd like to think.
Yeah.
And we had quite a few of the wood industry guys at that outing.
Yes. So there was a lot of different organizations there. And I know Conestoga was there and a few other different places from the local area. So
Yeah, it's good to see the support, from our industry, reaching out to organizations like that to really help.
it's a good community. I mean, the woodworking industry is pretty tight. I mean, it seems like everyone knows everyone. And if you can help a community out like that, it's big.
Oh my God, yes.
So
Yeah, you started
that's-
the very beginning of a pretty good potential project this week, didn't you?
Yep. So we were looking. We also drove out to Indiana, looked at a planing, ripping line with one of our customers, Newman 382, with a descrambler, going to a 2+4 Marine Johnson. So the first head or the first arbor on that saw will have hogger heads, and that is going to remove your edgings, so that you don't have to have somebody picking or pulling edgings. And then the last arbor is 4 moving blades. Gives you the most versatile saw on the market. Multiple different pocket sizes. It's a heck of a saw.
I haven't seen that one. That sounds really nice.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a heck of a line out there.
It is massive.
Very clean pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a scanner in front of it as well.
Yeah, Dean, you were out there as well, weren't you?
Yeah, me and Eric went out and we cleaned everything up, got pictures of it.
The saw had 400 hours, I want to say is what it was.
It very low hours on that machine.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice addition for one of our customers here coming up.
Yep.
I think we have that quoted out to a few different big places.
There's a fair amount of quotes out on that one. Probably by the time this episode airs, it'll be gone.
Yeah, well, that'd be good. But we had a pretty big global audio company. We were on the beginning stages this week.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool setup they have. They're running a couple different routers in there, starting to get a little older. They're looking to expand. Got to see their entire place, and it is impressive. Very cool stuff that they're doing. Got to see some of their projects on aluminum extrusions, cutting, drilling, routing, some different stuff out, trying to help them out on automating that, eliminating a ton of time with some of our machines. Onsrud makes a X-Series aluminum extrusion machine that is designed strictly around cutting, boring, routing aluminum extrusions. So we're trying to crunch some numbers there and make sure it makes sense for them before jumping into something like that.
Yeah, I think 5-axis machine as well for the wood side.
Oh, yeah. Do a lot of curved parts. So
And looking at change a lot of their processes to maybe streamline it a little bit.
Yep. Well, I think they said they had a consultant come in here a few months ago, and they're working through with them to try to come up with some solutions. And then we had talked with them about some of the different options on machinery to help fit into their facility.
Yeah, I think that expansion's like 30,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So a lot of the painting and things that they're doing and streamlining some of that, and some glue applications as well they want to bring in-house. So
Yep.
should be a nice project.
Yeah, we didn't really get a chance to look at the painting side of what they were doing that day.
Yeah, that's a big facility.
whole nother-
There's a lot going on right
Whole nother building.
there, which is pretty good. Yeah, I had return conveyor system we were working on Wednesday. Barbaric with the vacuum style return. Customer's pretty limited on floor space, so having a traditional roller conveyor system with the turning, because they do a lot of stuff that's 8 and 10 foot, and having to edge band the ends, takes up a lot of room with that. Whereas the vacuum style will rotate it at the end of the thing and just put it on the rollers to come back. So
So they're not even transferring it with like a belt, with the belts on a traditional return. They're picking it with a vacuum lift.
but then it'll set it back on the belt. So instead of having to come, 10 feet away from the machine with the traditional turners.
Okay, so
You
they
know,
want it turned.
Yeah.
That's why we're okay.
Yep. So they can keep it narrow in the walkway like everybody. It's space is at a premium, and even though they're 20-foot long edge bander, it's still
Oh, absolutely.
quite a bit of space and
Yeah.
to get that stuff lined up. So the vacuum system makes a lot of sense. So we're just working on that one to save some space, and we just put a nice wide belt in there, and our techs were out doing some work on it. It was a used machine that they had picked up and brought us in to fix the mechanicals. That was Josh that was out there.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it turned out to be a very nice project that we're working on out there as well.
Yeah.
It's out in New Jersey. Kyle, we were talking about earlier some of the Oliver reconditioned and automating. What kind of determines where we go with putting new controls in a unit? And at what point, do you say you go to a new machine?
Yeah. Well, that's sort of a kind of a whole subject in itself right there. And I don't know. I'd say probably like, from quite a long time ago, like 1920s to 1990 or so, most of those machines built in that time era were, I don't know, they were built to last for as long as they could possibly last. That was the whole point of it. So those machines are definitely worth putting new controls on. I mean, they're barely ever worn out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we're looking at doing with some of these Olivers, is putting on some different controls. We obviously update the controls, like the one in Vegas. We put a whole new control cabinet on it, but in the future we're actually looking at putting like auto positioning on it as well. So when you basically tell it to go 2 inches or something, it'll just go 2 inches, and you don't have to have an operator making that decision. Yeah, I mean,
And that's kind of like the scanner that we put on that glue line. You can, the measuring system, it can give you an idea where you're at already with,
yeah.
Well,
defecting and stuff.
we worked on the project for the molding sander, and we were quoting it out 2 different ways. You were pretty involved in that project, where it was, do we go full servo for head adjustments, punch your program in, or your profile for a molding, and the machine just starts moving?
Yeah.
Or do we have it just say you can load a program and give a manual counter a reference point and tell your operator to crank it to this reference point? And pricing and the amount of changeovers, the amount of the time the customer would have taken for setup versus the automation to add servos on it didn't quite justify the price to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately. That would have been a cool one.
You wanted to program all the servos.
Well, it wasn't that I wanted to program it. That was going to be a lot of work, but I wanted to see it work.
Yep.
There was going to be 6 heads, and then moving in an X and a Y, and sort of like a Z. No, more like a C kind of, because it was a rotation.
Yeah,
so it was like an X, Y, and a C.
Yeah.
And so everything would have, when you punch in the profile for a new molding, you would have seen 6 heads move in X, Y, and C into a new
All by
location. It
itself.
would have been pretty neat, yeah.
That would be pretty cool to watch.
But yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately for me and my fun, they decided to go manual.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, that's always the hard thing, is depending on how much money you want to throw at something.
Oh, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
What is it?
that many
It's
servo
almost-
motors.
What? On average, if you're looking at putting a servo on some kind of head, 10 to 15?
Yeah, I mean, sort of base, like, let's say you have sort of like other ones that you're doing in a machine, and you can sort of, split that cost up between, say, 3 of them. Yeah, it's going to cost like 10 to 15,000 per one. If I have to program one in particular just for a machine, like that's going to cost like somewhere around like maybe 20, 25,000.
No.
Just because there's a lot of auxiliary things that are going along with just doing one.
You can copy and paste a program once you have it wrote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so doing like 3 is just sort of duplicating through it. But it costs like 10, 15 for one axis, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you had, I don't know, how many would that be? 3 times
That was-
6. That would be 12. I can't do math. 18, right?
18.
So 18 It's pricey.
Yep.
Yeah.
It adds up real quick because we've talked about doing that on some of the older motors we get in to put a quick adjustment, type in your program, and throw a servo on one of the motor heads. But
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing for a motor. I mean, you're talking about $100,000 in automation for a used motor.
Right. Well,
So,
hopefully.
Well, when you're looking at machines that are $500K to replace,
Yeah.
you know,
now it's balancing out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just got a job for. It would almost be considered a silly machine. Maybe it's a small machine, is what I should say. But the machine brand new only cost about $60,000. But they wanted a new system put onto it. So it's gonna be somewhere around like $30,000 to put a auto positioning system in it. It's but it's just two chop saws that basically you hit a button and they both chop, but it moves. The chop saws move to a position between them to set up for different things. And then you can set the chop saws for angles. So you can do like, angled flooring or molding.
Right.
I think that's what he's doing with it.
Okay.
This customer. Yeah. So it's not like a crazy expensive machine, but he figured that $30,000 was worth it than buying a new machine. I think he's actually, and I won't mention the manufacturer's name, but I think he's a little annoyed at the manufacturer of the machine because it's only, if I'm correct, a 2018 machine, and the controller's already obsolete.
Yeah, that's.
So.
But we're updating it and
Yeah.
getting it back into the gear,
Yeah,
and that's the
stuff.
important part with it. And one of the things we strive to do on our
It's
service and rebuild side to get that older piece of equipment back in the game.
Yeah.
For a fraction of the cost, and having that updatability with it and downloadability to it. And
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So, I also think that it's not great that the manufacturer, can't support a machine that's 2018, but I can't blame them either. Most bigger manufacturers, they have a team doing this stuff. Like,
well, they
kinda
typically don't have the resources to come back at something like that. Where
exactly
it's
what
always,
I'm saying.
They're looking at everything.
Yeah.
As the,
So like they even subcontract out parts of like the programming and different stuff. So if a controller went obsolete, China said, "Oh yeah, we're not going to make that anymore." To go back to all the people you subcontracted to this whole group, it would be a nightmare to do all that. Where when I do something, it's just me. So like I already know everything that I need to know. So if something goes obsolete in one of my systems, like I just had that happen in my 3S machine down in Tennessee, my screen, like it was perfectly fine. It's touch screen. It uses a specific technology in it, but they've just kind of done away with that. So I have to come up with a new system, which isn't hard for me because I already know everything. I built the thing from scratch.
it's your baby.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's one advantage that we get here.
yeah, it's a great part of our whole package, really.
Yeah.
That nobody else is really doing.
You did one that was a extremely heavy pusher. So big, linear bearings on it, extra linear bearings.
Yeah, I love that one.
Super heavy where I think the customer was cutting, it was like 24 inches wide and just had boards stacked 4 inches high.
Yeah, well,
So-
he was cutting 2x6s that were wet on end, so he like stacked a whole bunch of 2x6s in there.
Okay.
So back
And-
up there.
Yeah,
You actually built the whole pusher unit?
Yes, the positioner, pusher,
yeah,
very similar to like a razor gauge or a tiger stop, except for a lot heavier.
yeah.
I mean, it was like,
What do you think we were pushing? 300 pounds, maybe?
Yeah, that's kind of what I rated it as. I was pushing more than that, but
Which is pretty awesome.
yeah. It would push, a person across the table. Like it's crazy how much it can push. But yeah, it's,
We'll have to get that in shop videos.
Yeah.
Here goes BK. He's getting on there and going to sling him across the room. He's got on a fast transit.
yeah. So it's actually one of the machines I want to put into production whenever we get a little bit less busy. Because
I don't think that's less busy is coming up anytime soon.
Well, yeah, maybe I just have to find time for it. I think there's people out there that could want something like that. That want, you just put your lumber in there, and it can be heavy. You can, because what was it? I think so. If it's 1.5 inches and it was like 2 foot cutting, how many? Yeah, so it would be like 10. I think it was like 10 2x6s
wow.
that he stacks in there on end, and then pushes them down there. So you're doing 10 cuts with one cut.
Nope.
I don't know if we said that, but it's on an upcut saw. That's what this thing's attached to. And so, yeah, with my controller on there, it just goes every like 6 inches or whatever you program it to, and just like cuts everything up. And yeah, it's crazy the production that thing can do.
That's impressive. I mean, you might wonder why you may want something that can push that hard, because I mean, we could have put rollers underneath the wood. The issue with that is when you go to stop or you start to accelerate fast.
Yep.
You need some resistance to be able to stop. So how do you get that with rollers? You can't hardly get it with rollers.
Yeah.
The rollers
unless
only
you
really
clamp
work
it.
for like a manual operation.
You have to clamp it.
Yep.
You have to hold it tight to your stop. This here allowed them to use just a phenolic or a steel table.
Yep.
It gave some resistance, enough resistance that we could speed up at a decent rate and not slide the boards the whole way through the saw and never stop.
Yeah. It was actually something I was struggling with at first, because I kind of had my ramp up and ramp downs a little bit too fast and was kind of throwing boards around. But yeah, got that all solved.
Definitely a neat,
That was an easy
neat one-off type of project we did there. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boys were out at Vegas this week. I think they're just winding down the day and tearing down the show, and I think they had a good week overall.
Well, it's been quiet from them, so hopefully that's a good thing.
Yeah, that. So next week will be we're always looking for new guests to come on. Like I said, we got Rob and Jeff at Green Street Joiner. They're going to join us on the 11th, which I think they're actually, they learned a lot from, I talked to them yesterday and with Keith from Lewis. And so I think they're going to pop over to Lewis in the morning and come see us and do the podcast and take them a tour of the facility. And
that's cool.
Should be good. They've been plugging away at our podcast as well. We appreciate them very much over there because they got us going with all this. I actually sent a job to them this week, so pretty big job. We'll take them to rock star status on that. So, yeah, in closing, I think we had a pretty good show today, and we'll talk at you next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Over and out.